Buenos tardes, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this. What's up? This is Chris and Greg and Chris. Oh, by the way, the name could be Gregory or Christopher.
I like Craig.
Just Craig?
Yeah, because it's so kind of bland. Like, when our powers combine, we are
Craig.
And
So-
last time you did this thing,
Uh-huh.
is that a thing? I'm
It
supposed
is.
to,
It's
okay.
from Dragon Ball. You're supposed to do it back. See, there it is. Anyway, so what's up? We are Craig, and this is the Roots and Branches video YouTube podcast channel thing. And today we kind of hinted towards the last time we're going to be talking a little bit about the Enneagram because it's it's a thing to do. It's a thing to talk about. So we're going to talk about it today. So what is the Enneagram? Good question. For the people who are brand new to it, it's a personality test. The black and white personality test, but how it's different from other personality tests or astrology signs or whatever is that you have a root character or a root personality. From that root, you can also exhibit traits of your character next to you. We'll talk about that a little bit. So that's a second character type. And then you have a third character type if you're super healthy and living your best life. Or you could exemplify characteristics of a fourth character type if you're stressed out. So it's a combination rather than just one particular personality type. So I'm a 9. Again, we're going to break those down a little bit. As a 9, I can step into a room with another 9 and we could be two different personality types even though we have the same base note. Yeah,
It's good.
that's how I understand it.
Cool. So we'll talk about like what we found helpful about it, and part of the reason we wanted to do it is just because it's everywhere. Oh, before I talk about that, we're trying to have a sponsor for each episode, and some might be a little bit more silly, but some might just be on point. So who's today's sponsor?
It's Sleeping at Last. It's a band.
Yep.
Yeah, we're sponsored by a super dope band, and you will hear the melodic notes in the background. If you can, I'll turn up the volume.
They wrote a song for each number. It's kind of cool or interesting. It's kind of sad music, so if you like that, I like sad music.
His favorite band. It's fire.
It's a good band. They're a really good band. So anyways, the Enneagram feels like it's everywhere, and as somebody who's kind of steeped in like Christian culture and trends, it definitely feels like the last 5 years it like permeated our conversation. I was at a conference thing a little while ago with somebody on our leadership team, and early on we realized that everybody would introduce themselves by saying their Enneagram number if they were giving a talk or just in conversation. And so we decided to make it like a fake drinking game, and we were at different places in the room at different moments in this conference, and every time somebody would like go up front, they'd say, "Hey, I'm so and so, I'm a 5, so my talk is going to be like this." And then I'd look at Monica, I'd look at her and just do this. And if we were actually drinking, we would have been sloshed because it came up all the time. This is like a room full of Christian leaders, and so for whatever reason, the Enneagram has caught on. I think it is unique, some of what Greg's saying, and it's different than other personality tests. I often have an issue with personality tests because I feel like they box you in, and I don't tell me what to be. Like,
right.
I'm myself, and for whatever reason, this one I think its focuses on emotional health and even some of your fears, and so it's about being like a healthy whole person rather than being productive on a team for your job, which I feel like a lot of the personality tests tend to be. So Enneagram means it's Greek, and it means 9 grams or 9 drawn things, and so it's 9 personality types in a when it's drawn, it's like a circle with like a star. And I've heard some Christians who are like, they see demons everywhere,
Right.
those kinds of folks, like they hate Harry Potter. They just look at the Enneagram thing and they're like, oh, it looks kind of like a pentagram. It's of Satan. Actually, the origins of the Enneagram are rooted in Christian mysticism. I wrote the guy's name down who, at least it's somewhat contested, but most folks point to this person in the 4th century as the person who started developing these ideas. Evagrius Ponticus.
It's a dope name.
Is a Christian mystic, and then it has come and gone throughout culture, and I think in the last 100 years or so, last 50 years, has been most popularized by Catholics, Jesuits and Franciscans who would write about it, and I think in the last 10 years and more broader evangelicalism, people like Richard Rohr have popularized it, But that's some history. So there's 9 personality types, and Greg and I are going to kind of read through them just to give you a glimpse of what they are, and then talk about how we've experienced this, and if it's been helpful or what we found as problematic pieces to it or that kind of stuff. So, do you want to take the first one? We'll just kind of read through this.
Sure, you take the first one.
The first one?
You
Okay.
take the first one.
Number 1 is the reformer. Oh, by the way, some people say that the reason there are numbers is because the numbers are more open than the descriptors. Often personality test, if you have like a descriptor, like that language, people cannot like it as much, but a number is vague. So there's a descriptor name for each one of these, but those vary. It's the numbers that are more important in the Enneagram. But number 1 is the reformer. The reformer is rational, idealistic, principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and a perfectionist. I've heard it said that the reformer comes into a room and sees things that could be better. Is typically more of a direct communicator and wants things to be what they could be.
Yeah, I know a couple of ones, and there's one particular individual I was like, yo, it's not always about right and wrong. And then I did the test and I was like, oh, they're one. I get how they think. They're not trying to be right and wrong. They're just doing their best to help us get to a common understanding. And it's just really good. The test is really good. But we're not talking about that. We're just reading the list.
That's good. Helping. Yeah. That's one of the ways we found it helpful, like on our leadership team and even just interpersonally, is knowing what our motivations are underneath it, and seeing that in other people and seeing how we are different, but being able to celebrate those differences.
Right. So it's been good. It's been good. I see it as, rather than like a recipe, it's just a set of ingredients, and then you do with the ingredients what you see fit based on the circumstance and all that good stuff. But anyway, so number 2 is the helper. The helper is caring, interpersonal, demonstrative, generous, people-pleasing, and possessive. So all of these character types have both attractive qualities and qualities that could be a little more problematic as well. I know everyone's a 2. Freaking everybody, this guy's a 2. Everybody's a 2. Really? So many 2s. So many 2s. Andy's a 2. You're a 2. My friend, and yo, shout out to, we're also sponsored by Small Circle of Friends. This guy's a 2. Everybody's a 2. Everybody's
a 2.
Yeah, he's a 2.
I was gonna say it later on, but I am a 2. I've never met. Yeah.
Okay, not everybody's 2. Rachel Goebel's not a 2. That's because she's a boss. No, but anyway.
Which is the number 8,
I think.
Yeah. I've never met. I know one other male 2. Most 2s, for whatever reason, I think that I've met are women. But
yeah,
we'll continue that in a sec. Number 3 is the achiever. This is somebody who's success-oriented, pragmatic, adaptive, excelling, driven, and image-conscious. These folks get stuff done, and they care about moving things forward. Sometimes to a fault, but that they have that energy to them.
Yes. 3s are dope. 4 is the individualist. They're sensitive and withdrawn, but expressive, dramatic, sometimes self-absorbed, and sometimes temperamental. I know a few 4s, brilliant people, very, very fun to be around. Yeah, hands down.
I've heard that the 4 may not be the one who takes initiative in like starting a conversation or in a big group, but they have tons to offer.
Yep.
Sometimes they need somebody to engage them first.
Yep. Exactly, so true, so true.
5, the investigator. Number 5, this person might be intense, more cerebral, kind of in their head, perceptive, innovative, sometimes secretive or isolated. I think these often are like, maybe the archetype would be like a research professor, somebody who really loves understanding things and learning things, has tons of information, and is always trying to get more information. And yeah, so that's the 5, the investigator.
Yeah, from the 5s that I know, you don't want to get on their bad side. So, love a 5. The 6 is the loyalist. They're committed, security-oriented, engaging, responsible, but can be anxious and suspicious as well. They'd be the type that says, F this test ain't for me. I can't be bound by no test. That's probably a 6.
Yeah. Well, I know people who take this test and they're like, I don't like these things. And then the response is, you're a 6, you wouldn't like these things. But those people are super faithful to their relationships, and regardless of how things are categorized, like they just are committed. It's my turn. The enthusiasts, number 7. These folks are typically like a little bit more high energy, crave new experiences, like to travel maybe, or just do things out of novelty. Their time is really important. They don't want to miss out on experiences. So the description here is busy, fun-loving, spontaneous, versatile, sometimes distracted or scattered at an unhealthy way. I'm married to a 7, and it's great because there's a lot of energy to do new things and go and have fun.
There it is. 8, the Challenger. I did a comparison of Marvel characters to the Enneagram types. I won't go over all of those, but the Challenger 8 was both for the Avengers, Black Panther, and for the X-Men, Magneto. Now, if you have no idea about Marvel, then I'll just read the description. But if you know about what I'm talking about, then you know what the 8 is. They're powerful, dominating, self-confident, decisive, willful, and also can be confrontational. They don't mind getting their hands dirty.
Sure.
So.
The 8s are great to have leading things often if they're healthy, because they don't mind critique. They're not really concerned about what people think as much as wanting to make something good and do it well and get it done. So we made the joke that 8s are often bosses, and you might find a lot of people who have like executive type personalities as 8s.
Very true.
My turn.
Very true. Yeah.
Last one is a 9, which is a peacemaker, which these people can be like chameleons. They want to connect with everybody, and they have that energy and potential. So the description here is easygoing, self-effacing, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and at maybe in an unhealthy way, complacent sometimes. They tend to be able to see things from every perspective and want people to be heard, and can make people feel like their perspective is valid, or their experience. So I'm sitting next to a 9, and so we have a 2 and a 9, and we've learned some of those things. But peacemakers are great. They're great to have around because they'll kind of bring a group into equilibrium. They'll often be able to connect with very different people in a group and make everyone feel like together, which is great.
It's fun stuff.
So those are the 9. There's tons more. Like, there are books and books written on this. Again, some of the deeper drives behind this is your core motivation and your core fear. So maybe we can talk about that as an example for a 2 and a 9 and what we found helpful. For me, as a 2, I'm a 2 with a wing 3, which is, we won't talk about the wings, but my deepest longing is to be loved and to help other people feel loved and appreciated. And so that brings me joy. That's what like motivates me, and kind of how I hold myself is helping other people feel safe and loved. The downside for me, so that's the basic motivation. The fear is to feel unloved or not useful in relationships. And so I can gravitate when I'm unhealthy towards codependency, like wanting to find my meaning in being helpful to others. And that's kind of how it's played out for me. And again, for whatever reason, your friend in LA, right? Is besides him and my counselor, who's a man, I haven't met that many other 2 men, because it tends to be more emotional, nurturing, empathetic. And I think the caricatures of men and women are that men are supposed to be stronger and less emotional, and I'm the one who cries in movies and all that. So that's me as a 2. And it's been helpful for me, like understanding that and owning that. How about for you, as a 9?
As a 9, well, just to kind of co-sign that, I'm married to a 2, and very similarly, our goals overlap. I also want to see everybody, loved and do well, but not because of an emotional attachment. It's just because as a 9, I want the flow to be calm and peaceful. So my motivation is trying to, pour out little fires so that everybody is, on the same page. Not necessarily because I'm emotionally attached, but just because that's the environment in which I thrive, is in a peaceful environment, apparently. So I'll always work toward that. The drawback is that the complacency comes if I have to, because I see so many vantage points, it's hard for me to make a decision. So it's easy to just say, well, I don't know what to choose, so I just won't choose anything. And it's easy to not speak my voice or to not speak my understanding because of everybody else. I want them to be heard, so I will withdraw myself for the sake of everyone else. And that has some positives, but it also has some negatives, for sure.
Where have you seen the strength of being a 9 play out in your life?
Well, you use the term chameleon. There's a handful of people, both at Oak Life and in my previous professions, and just fun kicks and giggles. I don't have a challenge connecting with people, not because I'm like super cool or anything like that, but I enjoy everybody partaking in this thing we call life. So I'm not caught up on whatever that would distract me from that.
Sure.
So it's just easy to gel with folks for the most part.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Where have you seen the Enneagram not be helpful?
I haven't, but I imagine that just like any other personality test, it becomes a limiting belief. You start to think, okay, well, this is who I am because this is what this test tells me, therefore I cannot grow in any other area. I mean, it's a personality test based on our personality now. I can tell you that I wasn't always a 9, and then also, for example, the thing that's really cool about this test is as a 9, I know that when I'm healthy, I know we wasn't going to talk about like wings or whatever, but I think it is pretty cool because I've seen it helpful. I show the characteristics of a 3. My healthy is a 3, meaning that I'm focused on being successful and adapting, and I'm driven and all this good stuff. But as a 9, when I'm not healthy, I look like the 6, which is anxious and suspicious, and so I can tell, like, oh, if I'm feeling, like I want to be isolated, I know that I'm currently not healthy. Like, let me, take an inventory of what I'm doing with my life and try to get back onto a good track. That wasn't the answer to the question you asked, but yeah.
It's a good window into what this is. I like that you said that it's a tool to help us understand, but when it becomes like who we are, then it can be dangerous. One of the things I heard like people talk about when they're talking about the Enneagram, they said a danger is when you start to tell people you did that because you're a 3, and you start to see them first as the Enneagram descriptor of who they are, not who they are. With that said, one of the strengths of the Enneagram is you have to self-identify. Nobody can tell you what you are. You have to read the description, take a test or whatever, and say, no, this is who I am. I think some of the other personality tests, based on the way you survey or the way that you take the test, it tells you, like, it spits out a result. So yeah, it's a tool. It's everywhere. We thought we'd join the group of millions of people talking about the Enneagram, but do it better because, I'm a 3 wing, so that's how we do it.
That's how you do it. And there's some good pairings. So apparently 9s and 2s make good pairs.
Nice.
We make people feel homey.
Cool.
And invited. So
Nice.
at least that's what the test told us.
High
High five. Yo.
It's good.
Manly words. Homey and inviting. Oh, that was fun. Anything else?
Yeah, we can close with further research. So honestly, you can just Google Enneagram, and there is a ton of stuff out there. There is an app that you've looked into.
Ennea app, ENNEA APP. It's a pretty good test. You have access to like your childhood wound. It shows you what your fixations are, your passions, and then it keeps the data on your phone. So if you ever want to do further research, it's right there. It's not expensive. It's free to get your number and like review things. But if you want like the deep research on your characteristics, then it's like $2.
Nice.
So it's not bad.
Yep. And there's a ton of podcasts and books. There's one book to reference called The Road Back to You. I think that's also a podcast. The author's name are Crone and Stabile, and apparently that's a good book. I haven't read it, but people that I
Word
trust,
on the street.
yeah, people that I trust have read it and said it's good. But there's a ton of stuff out there, and the hope is that this is just one more way to understand yourself and move towards health and be able to love other people for who they are too. Anything else? I think that's it.
That's it.
I think next time we're going to try to talk reconciliation, because somebody we've been asking if people want us to talk about anything, and somebody mentioned that. So there might be a third party with us on our next video, and that might be the topic.
Yeah, buddy. So go forth and learn people and love people, and at the end of the day, just make peace, because 9s are better than everyone else. So be a peacemaker. I'm just playing.
It's good.
Peace out.
See you.